next too.
Sure.
All right, it's on.
Yeah, what they gave me was the first 3 slides. I don't know
Okay, we're on.
if you want to do it or you want me to do it.
If you want to just give a general welcome, then I can dive
Okay,
right
we're
in.
on.
That's probably.
We're on?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome all to the public forum for the Jericho Brandon Infrastructure Plan. For those who don't know, my name is Scott Zukowski. I'm the chairman of the Water and Sewer Commission, and I just want to welcome you here. We've got some folks from Central Mass Regional Planning Commission and Ty and Bond who have been involved in a ongoing study to see about improving water, sewer, street, and sidewalk and drainage improvements in the Jericho and Brandon Road areas. Welcome. We've got a few here live. If you are interested in calling in with questions, that number will be is provided on the screen. But at this point, I will turn it over to Andrew Lowe from Central Mass Regional Planning Commission.
Thank you, Scott. And for folks who may not be able to see the phone number on the screen here, let me just read it out loud quickly. Again, this is for folks to call in who may have questions at some point during the presentation or may want to give us some comments as well. So the number is 508-659-9004, and the PIN number is 786-268, then the pound symbol. So thank you again, Scott. And again, my name's Andrew Lowe, Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. And I just wanted to recognize the project team who's been working on this in some capacities for about 2 years now. So my colleague Danielle Marini is here, and as well as the folks from Ty and Bond, so Matt Wazorek and Liz Desjardins. And then from the town's team, we have Bill Scanlon from the Planning Department. We have John Ruda from the Town Administrator, and we've also been working with several other folks who aren't here tonight. So George Petrinos from the Water and Sewer Department, and Vinnie Paletta and Stan Galinsky from the Highway Department. So with that, the slides that you're seeing today will be posted on the town's website. I believe some of them are already there. Others will be there within the next couple of days. So you'll be able to view them there, and we will be accepting comments by email as well over the next couple of weeks. So just diving into the project here, this is a Town of Dudley project that's funded through an FY 2019 Community Development Block Grant from the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development. And the Planning Commission's role here is really to just help administer the project on the town's behalf. So as I referenced, the project developed starting in 2018 following prioritization within Dudley's community development strategy, which is a part of this particular grant program. So the idea under the community development strategy was to focus our efforts on neighborhoods that have the oldest infrastructure in town and that best fit this particular program's grant criteria. So that means they have to be primarily residential areas, they have to be at least medium density, and they have to have a moderate or lower average income level. So that's really what brought us to focus on these particular parts of town. And as I think everybody in town is aware, those are some of the earliest developed parts of town that have the most substantial infrastructure that is in need of study and possibly replacement in some cases. So Ty and Bond's team and their sub-consultants have been out in the field since early in the summer and into the fall doing a field survey. The idea is that the plan itself that's resulting from the field work will be completed this fall or into the early part of the winter, and any design or construction projects that come out of this planning effort would be dependent on future funding availability. All right, so just briefly, the goal of the project is to provide a roadmap for short and medium-term infrastructure improvements within this project area in the Jericho neighborhood and in the Brandon Road and vicinity area. So to achieve that goal, we've split the project into essentially 3 phases. The first is to evaluate existing infrastructure systems in the area. The second is to develop some conceptual designs for improvements in key areas. And then the final step is to produce a plan with prioritized and phased recommendations for improvements. And the idea with that is to both steer town efforts that are locally funded, but also to try to use the study as rationale to be able to go out and get grant funding and other kinds of funding to help the town implement the improvements without having to fund everything locally. So the goals of tonight's forum are pretty straightforward. So first is to introduce the project to neighborhood residents, property owners, and other stakeholders, to present the findings that Time Bond's engineers have found out in the field over the summer and into the early fall, to give residents and property owners a chance to provide local input. And I should also note that this is the first of 2 public events for this project. We haven't quite set the form for the second one. It may be part of another body's meeting, Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Water, Sewer Commissioners. But there will be another opportunity for public involvement later in the project. So with that, I'll hand things off to Matt Wazorek and Liz Davidman.
All right, so I'm Matt Zork with Time Bond. I'm a project manager, and this is Liz Desjardins. We've both been working on this project since the middle of summer now, I believe. So we're just going to walk you through basically what we found so far and what we've done to date. And as Andrew mentioned, kind of just lay out what we've found and hopefully get some input from the town on, if you agree on what we found so far, or if there's problem areas that we haven't identified that we should look at or reevaluate. That's, the main goal of this is to try to get some feedback from the town and make sure we have a realistic approach on what we're looking to upgrade. So to start off, the study area, so the Jericho and Brandon neighborhoods, they're highlighted on the map here. And we actually do have some figures plotted here too, so if you can't see this well, maybe after we get through this presentation, you can look at the maps on the table over there or on the website. So the Brandon area is highlighted in yellow, and the Jericho area is highlighted in green. So these was our main focus. All the streets involved there. And Liz, you want to go to the next slide? And so what we've done to date is we first started with an aerial survey of the whole project area. It was mapped, and then we had a ground crew go out and actually collect field data of inverts, structures, any surface elevations or structures they could find. They did a lot of record research on water, sewer, gas, electric, all that, and compiled it into one basically base map that we can use as a tool for future design as well. So once we had that mapping put together, the next step was kind of data collection. So we conducted field investigations. We went through, we inventoried all the sidewalks, all the pavement conditions, structures. We popped manholes, catch basins, and we kind of put this all into a GIS database where we're using to create these figures that you'll see, and Liz will go through to kind of highlight the need for improvement on these areas in the infrastructure. The ratings that we put together are DHCD rating systems, basically ranked excellent, good, fair, or poor. Some of it, like the utility stuff, like the water lines or the sewer lines, are mostly based on age. So there's certain criteria. If you're over X amount of years, it can fall into some category. But it also supplemented with, if you pop a sewer manhole and you see that it's backed up or clogged or falling apart, you can kind of infer that it's, it's more deteriorated than the age suggests. And today we'll go through our findings. So we'll have a lot of figures to go through, kind of step through each infrastructure that we assessed, and show you the highlighted areas of the rating systems on the figures, so we can walk through that with everyone. And now I will turn it over to Liz, and she can go through what we found so far.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Matt. And welcome everyone who's here or watching or listening. And we're looking forward to hearing your feedback. So I'm first going to just take you through what we have investigated so far and some conclusions we have drawn. The infrastructure that we focused on includes surface infrastructure. Surface infrastructure is pavement surfaces, so that's both roadway and parking lots, as well as curbs and sidewalks. And then we also looked at underground utilities that are public. So that will be our stormwater drainage system, sewer, and water. And I'll take you through some of the criteria we look at to rate each of those categories. We'll look at maps to see what the general rating is for each category, and then I'll give you some specific concerns that we have observed or the town has brought to us so far, so that way you kind of know what we already know. So we'll start with pavement surfaces. This is, like I said, roadway and parking lot. The only parking lot in the study area is off of Pine Street. It's the parking lot by the basketball court there. So pavement surfaces were rated. What we observed visually were things like pavement patches, which you can see in the good photo shown, cracking, which is observed in the fair photo, and then also lack of pavement, which you can see with that pothole in the poor photo, and then also things that we can't see in our photos, but like rutting or heaving. And these are all photos from the study area that just represent the different categories that we used. So we'll first take a look at the Brandon neighborhood figure for pavement surfaces. You can see the ratings represented. So in general, on all of these figures, your green is going to be your excellent, yellow is good, orange is fair, and then red is poor. And just to orientate yourselves, this, can you see a mouse? No.
That's,
okay.
yeah, West Main.
That's West Main Street.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you could see the mouse.
Okay.
West Main Street up here to the north, and then we have 1st through 6th Ave right here. So this will be true for all the figures you'll see. And then for the Jericho area, the excellent that you see towards the north, that is Pine Street, and then running down, that is Mill Street. And in general, all of the tables that we have shown tonight include the entire project area. So the table is for the Brandon and Jericho area combined. So for example, this pavement condition table shows that we have a pretty even distribution of ratings between the excellent and fair ratings. And then that one parking lot that we do have up on Pine Street is in a good condition. So specifically, some of the areas that we found to be in poor condition or we have a concern of is in the Donna Lane area. Those roads,
The system has detected that there is only one participant on the conference. The conference will now end.
Didn't expect that.
all right.
It gave us 15 minutes.
Yeah, so we have a lot of cracking over there, uneven pavement, exposed subsurface, and just a generally degrading roadway. And then over on William Street, we can see heaving of some of the manholes there, and cracking associated with that. And moving on to our next surface feature, curbs. So curbs were observed for cracking, again, settlement, material, general condition, and then also reveal height. So a typical curb reveal height is 6 inches. In the study area, we observed reveal heights anywhere from 6 inches to almost flush with the street surface. And again, these are some photos from around the study area, and we see almost a brand new curb in our excellent category down to a curb that is almost non-existent at this point in the poor category. Curbs throughout the area are mostly bituminous concrete, We do see some granite curbing. The granite curbing is mostly, well, in the Brandon area, it is only near the library with that newer construction. Besides that, we see a lot of the curbing that exists in that area. It is good. And then in the Jericho area, that granite curbing runs along Oxford Ave. And unlike the Brandon area, in Jericho, most streets do in fact have curbing. However, we see some of the poorer conditions on the curbing in this area. But overall, we do have over 50% of curb that exists in good condition. So that brings to one of the concerns about curbing is the curbing where it doesn't exist or where it is in such a poor condition that it has almost crumbled away. And in those areas where we do not have curbing, the biggest concern is where we're starting to see erosion. In some areas, the side of the roadway is eroding from the constant stormwater flow, lack of curb. And you can see the list of some of those streets that was observed on. One of these, the top photo is on View Street. And our last surface feature that we looked at was sidewalks. So sidewalks, again, we were looking for cracking, settlement, and then also general walkability. What goes into general walkability is your ADA compliance, so that's mostly with ramps. Also evident walking hazards. So evident walking hazards you can kind of think of as an obstacle in the sidewalk. So this might be something that you can trip on, like a root or vegetation that prevents you from actually passing the sidewalk. Also crosswalks or the lack of crosswalks. And finally, protective measures. So this could be if you're walking along the sidewalk and there's a hill that's unprotected by a fence or something like that, or also protection from cars as you're walking. And again, these are some photos from around town, around the study area, are excellent condition. Looks very nice. That is by the library. And then you can see how things quickly degrade, and then in this poor photo, the sidewalk is almost unwalkable. So this is the Brandon figure again, and we have mostly like the curving bituminous concrete sidewalks with concrete sidewalks in the same areas that granite curbing is in. And we don't need to spend much time on this figure because there's very little sidewalk in the Brandon area. So most of our sidewalk is in that Jericho neighborhood. However, most of it is difficult to walk on. I know even when we were conducting this study in that area, I spent a lot of time walking on the road, and I observed others doing the same just because it is hard to walk along that area. Some of the specific concerns, like I mentioned, were obstacles in the sidewalk's way. We have a few areas where the vegetation has almost taken over the sidewalk, and you can't walk by some retaining walls that have fallen into the path of the sidewalk, and also items that are placed in the walking path. This could be parked cars or dumpsters. And then specifically over on Mill Street, which I'm sure you all are aware is a fairly busy street, the sidewalk gets pretty narrow along the buildings there, as you can see. So moving on to our underground utilities. starting with drainage. So for drainage, we visually observed all of the structures with the help of town staff. And the structures include both drainage manholes and catch basins. All of them that were able to were opened and looked in. And what we rated these structures on is general stability of the structure and the materials it's made of, and also the effectiveness of it, and the frame and cover or frame and grates condition. For the piping of all of our underground utilities, as Matt had mentioned before, is mostly dictated by the year that it was installed. So that is what is true for our drainage, and basically anything over 75 years of age is considered poor condition. So most of the drainage installed is in the early 1900s. So you will see a lot of the piping rated as poor. A lot of that piping is a corrugated metal pipe. And our structures are both primarily brick structures, some concrete block, and very few precast structures. And the town has expressed much concern with stormwater issues that they have experienced. So again, we're looking at the Jericho area here. A little bit more drainage infrastructure than the Brandon area. And although we see that the structure conditions are that good to fair, what really dictates how the stormwater system is going to properly work is that piping, which we see over 60% is fair. And really the main concern with drainage is not even the drainage that is in place, but the lack of drainage that there is, especially in the Brandon area. Right now that stormwater mostly just becomes a concentrated flow down Brandon, which I'm sure some of you have witnessed. And much like the drainage, for the sewer, we opened all of the structures with the help of the town, and they are rated again on the stability of the structure. Things that might incline infiltration, such as roots. If roots can enter the structure, then that probably means water can as well. And then also the cover and that cover's connection to the structure. And the pipes, the main lines of the sewer are based on age, with that same 75 years or older rated as a poor condition. Most of the pipe, per the records that could be found or knowledge from those who are familiar with the sewer system, indicate that most of the piping, and from what we can see at inverts, is clay pipe with some asbestos piping scattered around. And the pipes do change sometimes in between manholes, between various pipes. And we see the sewer ranging from anywhere from 50 to 120 years old. So you can see, just based on some of the age, you have a lot of red or poor rated sewer. And that continues over in the Jericho area. And again, although some of those structures are still in a pretty good condition, stability-wise, we see over 50% of the piping in poor condition. And one of the biggest concerns from the sewer staff is the sewer that runs through private properties. There's quite a bit in this area, but specifically down here between Ardlock and Village. And there are quite a few backups and regular backups in this area. I was lucky enough to find one of the manholes backed up, so I can say that is true. And the staff expressed concern and issues they've had with accessing and repairing, maintaining that sewer through all of that private property.
And Liz, before you go on, just one thing to add to on the sewer. We didn't have time before this meeting to actually finish or complete our TV inspections. So again, most of this is rated on age or known like undersized pipe diameters. But we will have a few days to actually, TV some lines that are suspect to also supplement this data and figure out where, where some service ties are, or if there's other problem areas that we know of. So that'll be coming too, which is not incorporated into this presentation at this point.
Yes. And we can focus some of those efforts on some of the areas of greater concern or further development. So yeah, our last underground utility is the water system. With the water system, most of it is cast iron, again with some asbestos areas, and it ranges anywhere from 20 years old to about 110, as records can kind of indicate.
Break-in period.
Yeah. So as you can see, we have a lot of poor rated water just based on that age. However, most of the fire hydrants seem to be either upgraded or installed later on after this initial water piping installation. So most of the fire hydrants are of the same model and in good condition. There are two excellent rated water lines. Those are the newer water lines, 12-inch that run down Pine Street and Mill Street. And as you can see, we are at almost 70% poor condition for water based on material and age of that water infrastructure. And talking to the water department, the biggest concern they really have right now is Oxford Ave. That is a 6-inch pipe that runs to service Oxford Ave, and that is mostly a residential area, high residential, a lot of apartments, services a lot of people, and that capacity and stability of that pipe is really a big concern for the water department. So with that, that is a summary of some of our infrastructure in general, as the reason why these areas were chosen is the infrastructure is definitely aging or aged in this area. And a lot of it finds itself in poor condition. So we have made our observations. We've got recommendations, concerns from the town, but we also want to hear from residents and stakeholders kind of on what you've observed, experienced, that kind of thing. And if there's any questions, please let us know.
Yeah, and I guess just to add on to that too, so today is to kind of get some feedback from the town and make sure everyone kind of agrees on where the figures stand and the improvements. The next steps are, is to make recommendations on, what areas to prioritize and where do we go from here once we have all this data. So that's kind of the next phase of this, which Andrew was kind of alluding to for the next hearing. So just wanted to go over that again. So with that, are there any questions from anyone?
Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns in the audience?
Oh, I might have one.
Okay. Please step up to the microphone and identify yourself.
Jack Carter. I live on Schofield Ave. I understand that you've just presented your findings and what you expect I don't know how you expect to abate all these things, you know, and how it would disrupt the neighborhood. You talked about asbestos piping, and that all has to be removed. You know, your inverts and the catch basins, they have to be replaced because of the age. Maybe I'm not, this is not the part where we talk about money, right? Am I talking out of line here? Or?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you know, all those things, those are all your findings. You know, I don't know how you expect to take care of them.
Yeah, and so, again, I think this was kind of to compile the finding aspect of it, and then the next phase is to come up with a kind of a prioritization list, and then submit that for grant applications to actually fund the construction design of those projects.
Okay.
So I guess one of the goals, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong here too, is just to put together a plan, and then use this plan to kind of submit for future grant funding to actually do these improvements.
Good, good. I hope that when you do this plan, you take into consideration the businesses that are in the area and what imposition it might cause to them and how you might abate any problems they might have.
Okay.
Just a question.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question, if that's okay. You mentioned drainage effectiveness, and I'm wondering how that's defined. Is there a flow capacity estimate? Is it you know, simply the materials and size of the drainage system in a given area?
So I guess what I was more looking at is sediment removal.
Okay.
In that, with the discharges from those drainage systems, more recent structures are more deep sump to allow it. Some of the system, the structures, the catch basins are collecting sediment as some of them were pretty full actually just due to less staff right now being able to clean them out. So some of them are collecting sediment based on where their inverts are.
Which reduces the effectiveness over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, part of this too is with the drainage evaluation, you know, we'll be doing some conceptual design on, you know, drainage improvements and all that too.
One question I have, Bill Scanlon, town planner. As you probably know, the town is looking forward to renovation of the Stevens Mill property, which is at the corner of Ardlock and Mill Street. We have a proposal for 156 to 160 dwelling units in the mill. So the mill is in the study area, and I guess my thought would be to try to target improvements to coincide with the redevelopment of the mill. So if there are water and sewer concerns, drainage issues, certainly with 150 or 60 new units, we're going to have a lot of people walking around the area. So we'll need to look at sidewalks and crosswalks and things of that sort. So I think it would be important to be able to use your findings to help us put together applications to remediate whatever infrastructure problems there might be in that area.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Yeah. And Bill, I think as you're aware, the CDBG program sometimes isn't as compatible with market rate housing developments as some other grant programs might be. But I think that might be a good fit for something like MassWorks, where we can, you know, take the evidence that Ty and Bond's team has put together and combine that with the proposed development and then take that to the state to try to get some funding.
We also are working with other folks in Andrew's shop on a complete streets prioritization plan, which is primarily you know, intersections and sidewalks. So I hopefully you could provide or coordinate whatever findings you have with Andrew's colleagues to help develop that prioritization plan. So I think we'd be mutually supportive and it would help CMRPC's team to put together their plan, which we can then use to apply for funding for improvements for traffic and pedestrian mobility.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And as some folks here are aware, another project being funded under the same grant that's funding this study is an ADA study, which includes a little bit of work on the sidewalk system as well. And I think if we can layer all these new supporting studies together, that would be a great way to give that evidence to the state or to the federal government of what the need is here. And I think we can make a pretty compelling argument to try to bring some funding in to implement some of the proposed recommendations.
I think that's part of the strategy, and also the overall water sewer infrastructure project that we're using an SRF funding for.
Correct.
We want to make sure that we weren't being redundant both in the study and the funding source, and maybe we have an opportunity to you know, down the road complement some of the recommendations from the overall water infrastructure
Yeah, I
study,
think-
and don't spend money where we don't need to spend it if it's
Exactly.
being funded by a separate source.
Yeah, so where you have neighborhoods that you can utilize outside sources, then why use your loan funds right there?
From the water and sewer direction of it, it's good to see you're confirming pretty much what's been on our radar for a while now, especially in the SIDEWALK area, where the sewer mains do run between. I know some of the property owners there, and where the sewer lines run through backyards. That's from back when the old, when the mill was active, and all of that was owned by the mill, and that's the way they ran the pipes. Well, when the mill no longer needed them or used them, they turned them over to the town, and we were given them in their condition. Yeah, many of those pipes are very, very old, and they're impossible to get at.
Could we speak a little bit more about what we think the next step in the progression here would be?
Sure. So as Matt said, they're going to be finishing up the field work aspect probably in the next few weeks. And then as the results are completed on that front, what we'll be doing is sitting down and kind of overlaying all these different layers to try to identify what parts of the neighborhood have the greatest needs. And we'll take a look at some other factors as well that can play into different grant programs and getting funding through them. And what we'll try to do is come up with, I think we said about five kind of concept designs that they'll put together. So they'll give us kind of an idea of what the project would look like if it were to get fully designed. They give us an idea of what things would cost, the amount of materials that would be needed, that kind of thing. And then they'll all be put into the full planning document that compiles everything that they've worked on. And that's going to be the evidence that we can take to these other grant programs to try to get things first designed and then built. So,
And when would be the next opportunity with that for the public to
well,
participate
I
more
think
yet?
probably about the time where we have about a 90% plan, we would come back, and I'm not sure if it will be with the Water and Sewer Commission or the Planning Board or perhaps the Board of Selectmen, whichever body wants to host us, then we'll come back and give kind of a more distilled presentation of what the recommendations are coming out of the study. And then from there, it's up to the town, working in partnership, I'm sure, with the Planning Commission and others to try to take that out into the real world and implement what's been recommended.
You know, lately, the selectmen have the highest rating, so I think that they'd be happy to host this.
Okay.
I think we have another one now.
Jay Johnson, Jonathan Pass, Selectman. I'd argue that water and sewer and planning should spend quite a bit of time together before we bring it to the selectmen. Want to look at pros and cons, really understand your, your attack on the reds, and an incremental plan before we start opening up sessions that we all know it'll be about cost, right?
We'll make sure it's ready for prime time.
Yeah, everything has to be buttoned up before
Right.
we, sniff a selectmen meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes?
Thank you.
I know the Brandon Road area is also part of a inflow and infiltration study that is currently ongoing. We're getting almost into the remediation phase finding out where water is getting into the system. I believe that's pretty close to finished as far as finding where it's getting in, and then we'll be stepping into repairing it. So some of that red will change in the Brandon Road area. That's also up, we're also doing that up in the courthouse area on Dudley Hill.
Right here. This is pavement,
That's pavements, yep.
but this is where, we have some of the CCTV from that infiltration.
Yes,
For this, so.
pretty extensively.
But that's a good example where we may look for supplemental funding to take the cost of repairing that critical line off of
Right.
the water and sewer users.
That would certainly help.
If we, you know, prioritize accordingly, that would be a perfect opportunity to do that.
We also have been working with Ty and Bond engineers on a small bridge program for the stream that goes under Mill Street and through the Stevens Mill. So we had submitted a grant application to the DOT for the small bridge program. We haven't heard whether it's been funded yet, but that's another poorly rated bridge that the town has that we're looking to renovate, which would be applicable to the study as well.
Yeah, I think the tricky part is just the timing on all this. You know, I'm just trying to combine all, you know, whatever the timeframes are on the other studies, though, if they align with this one. I think, you know, our schedule is, due to this grant funding for the study part, is what, end of December, January?
The grant that's funding this project expires the end of December, although I've just heard from the state that they're issuing an automatic extension through March.
Okay.
So I don't think we would need that much time, but we do have a little bit more of a buffer if we need it to wrap things up.
Andrew, would you anticipate the next step of applying for money for some engineering, more detailed engineering studies to get bid-ready plans prepared?
I can only hear about half of what, between our masks and the air conditioning. I can only
So
hear.
with the Community Development Block Grant funding, do you anticipate submitting another application for detailed engineering specs and plans to be
Yes.
ready for, you know?
I think that would be the next step on the CDBG front, would be to work with Matt and his team and how to, again, figure out what are these, you know, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, priority neighborhoods that are of a scale that these particular grant programs can actually help them. You know, obviously, you're not going to be able to go out and get a grant for $50 million and do everything they're going to recommend. So it's going to, it would be nice. It would be very nice. But, you know, the idea is really to chip away at things kind of one at a time. They may have to be things that are phased. You know, you have phase 1 here, phase 2 here, or you do the sewer first and then water, something like that. So we'll work with them, and I'm sure we'll sit down with the full project team and try to hash that out. And then, as you know, with the block grant, there are different eligibility criteria that may be based on the income of the residents in the project area, that may be based on other factors. And we'll see what the best fit looks like, and that's most likely where an application would go, would be to design for, you know, 1 or 2 of the conceptual design project areas, and then move into construction in a future grant. And I should say that is competitive, so we can't make any promises about those grants being awarded, but I think with the support of this study and with the staff in town and all the documentation they've collected, I think we would be in a pretty good position to help the town get those funds.
Great. Can we have a copy of the slideshow? We maybe put it up on the website?
Yes,
Facebook
absolutely.
and so forth.
So I think what I would say is that if we put it up on the website, people can send comments in maybe about the next 10 days or so. And then, you know, we would love to hear from folks who are at home, maybe listening or watching on TV. If you're aware of any infrastructural trouble spots that didn't get reflected in the presentation tonight, if you've got questions, please feel free to contact us. We'd be happy to talk.
Yeah, and this is, you know, this was just the presentation side of it. You know, there is for our deliverable also is a full report that has all the individual, streets by street listing of the infrastructure and stuff. So, that will be provided too. I don't know if that's gonna go on the website or.
Yeah, I'm sure,
We'll
yes.
definitely make it available.
Yeah, but they're, basically after this meeting, we compile everything and we get everything ironed out. We'll submit a report that has all the detail of what we found so far. So.
All right. Any more questions from the room here? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry, there.
No, Mark Bartel, Schofield Ave. Just want to be able to sleep tonight. We have a 12-inch water main on Schofield Ave. Don't tell me it's 6. I would think that would be the first thing you want to get done, is Oxford Ave, all those multi-families with a 6-inch water main.
Schofield is a 12, yes.
Okay.
Just so happen to have a map from an earlier
Do
meeting
that?
with me.
Okay, I'll sleep good tonight then.
All right, well, oh, another question?
I live on Oxford Ave in Dudley. My concern is this street. National Grid came in a couple of years ago and dug all new gas lines going to everybody's houses. And they did an okay job patching them up. With the amount of trucks, big 18-wheelers, full, empty, all day long, hundreds of them, one after the other, going up that hill, hitting those ruts, shake the houses unbelievably. My house is being damaged. My neighbor's house, their cement ceiling in their garage fell. My other neighbor is now putting $40,000 into her house to have her house jacked up, and all of her walls are cracked. All these houses sit, my front yard is maybe 6 feet. They sit very close to the road. These houses are very old. They're not built new construction. We don't have big front yards. I'm surprised there's not more people from my street here tonight. That road is an issue, not only for speed, but all of those divots that go across the road. Those trucks are pulling in a lot of weight, and they cause a lot of vibration. I actually put a bottle of water on my bathroom vanity, which is in the back of my house, and you could see the water rippling as the truck passed my house. My house is, it's balloon frame construction. The entire house shakes every time one of these. I don't care what the guy is doing with his business. He's successful. I'm happy for him. I don't care what he's doing down there, but the road itself is a mess.
What road was this again? Sorry.
Oxford Ave.
Oxford.
It's just, it doesn't look bad to the eye. I actually complained about this last year. They sent people out, said the road looks fine. It looks fine to the naked eye. I have security cameras. If you look at it in the nighttime when a car is coming up, you can actually see. They're like speed bumps going all the way up and down the hill. So these trucks going up, one after the other, and you can see, the corner of the road at the bottom in Webster. They've taken out the curb there. That's not my concern. My concern is the structure, house after house after house. These houses are being damaged, and majority of the houses are multi-families. So, landlords don't care. They don't live there. Tenants aren't going to complain because they're tenants. They don't care. I have probably one of the only single-family homes on that street. I can't live in a fancy cul-de-sac neighborhood. I pay my taxes like everybody else, and I feel something needs to be done with that road because it is an absolute nightmare. If any of you want to come to my house and spend a day and listen and feel the vibration in my house, I welcome you, because it's unbelievable. I'm happy the guy is successful. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for all the drivers that have jobs. But I'm worried about my house, my neighbor's house, my other neighbor's house.
So this isn't new.
This isn't new.
It's definitely not new.
It's definitely not new. But
and,
this is why I'm here tonight, because I know that this is, it mentioned the streets, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, that's fine. And I think we Have you noticed any change at all within the last couple of weeks in that traffic flow?
Not that I have noticed, no. Because I'm at work all day. I mean, I was out of work for a year. I had hand surgery, so I was home listening to this day after day. I actually started walking around my house and making marks where the crack ended and where the crack traveled to. And but I haven't noticed in the last few weeks because I've been at work.
Right. So we certainly try to address those concerns because we certainly understand them. We've been looking at alternate routes for those trucks.
And it's hard because there's bridges everywhere. I understand that.
Right.
I understand that. And I don't know what other way there is to do it. Maybe if they reduce their speed to 25, that's a whole nother issue. That's not why I'm here tonight. I'm here for all those little divots in the road that National Grid came in. And, like I said, they look fine to the eye.
Maybe as part of, not this specific project, because that, addressing those issues wouldn't be part of this specific project, but there may be an opportunity with everything that's going on in that area to better address the condition of those roads.
I thought that's what part of this was.
It is, it leads into it, but it's not geared towards that, but that's fine, I'm glad you came, because it gives us an opportunity to, put other things into consideration and into play when we're addressing those areas. Is it possible you could call me tomorrow if I give you my card?
I can.
Okay, we'll make sure we do that, and, we'll see if we can make that part of it's very important that we mitigate some of that traffic, and it is an ongoing issue, so I think we probably have an opportunity to take a look at, Bill mentioned some other grants tonight, Mass Works, Complete Streets, and some other funding opportunities that we may have, so, maybe now's the opportunity to take a look at those specific issues that's inherent to those, all the trucking that's going past your house. So if I'll give you my card, and maybe we can talk more about it tomorrow.
Okay.
All right?
And like I
I'm
said,
gonna grab it right now for you.
I'm happy the guy is successful. I really am. But,
Right, and I know he is trying to work on it as well, but let's use this as an opportunity.
okay. I just wanted to come as a resident and,
Don't go anywhere.
Thank you.
Well, that's why we have these
That's what we
things.
wanted, is comments, so.
well, and I'm, somebody had, mentioned the road betterment, and I said, oh, this is my opportunity, so.
Yeah,
Here I am. I know
we're
it
not
doesn't really
looking at the traffic, but we are looking at the road infrastructure itself.
Well, that's
so.
exactly, and that's why, that's why I'm here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've had all the questions we'll get from the audience, and I don't believe anybody's called in, so.
Yep.
Would-
They're on the website.
yeah.
Oh, good, I was gonna say the address, the email addresses are there on the
Yeah.
last page.
And as I mentioned, there are some of the slides online right now on the town's website, but I think the more substantive ones will be up probably tomorrow or Monday, I think. And if folks want to take a look there, we'd be happy to address any comments or questions.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.